Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. So great to have you with us. Excited about today. Got a couple of things that will change the world once we discuss them, and so can't wait for you to hear about it. How you feeling, Corey?
I'm ready.
Feeling good, baby?
I'm doing really well.
Good, man.
Really well.
Well, I think it's appropriate to start out the show with something that's deeply bothering me that I think is probably what everybody woke up thinking about today. It's a concept that I think when we wake up in the morning, there's a first thought. This is probably, I would venture to say, 97% of people that have a beating heart across the world probably thought of this today. Has football gone soft?
Yeah, it's exactly what I thought when I woke up.
Just saying. I was wondering. The other night I was watching the Dallas game against the Chargers, and the game was dumpster fire. It was so many penalties. But I forget who it was on Dallas. They came through, and they or maybe it was on the Chargers. They came through, and they hit. I don't remember if it was against Herbert or Prescott, but they hit them in the face with their hands, and it's illegal. You can't do it. But it wasn't like they grabbed him by the face. They were coming on this to get the sack, and they just jumped up in the air, and the quarterback pulled the ball down. So when they did, they jumped on the quarterback, and they hit him in the helmet with their hands, and they got a roughing the passer call. And I was thinking, I saw a highlight reel from introduction to like Monday Night Football in the 1970s. And the highlight reel, it said there was 9 penalties just during that highlight reel that now wouldn't be legal. 9 hits, sure. 9 different things. I just think football may be gone soft. I'm concerned. I understand. Listen, I played football all the way through college and high school. I remember having headaches after every practice, so it's not a good thing.
Sure,
I think what they've done for the game is great because there's a lot of great athletes that their careers were cut short because of the violence. I mean, there was receivers back in the day, they'd look over their shoulder and they would just get hit in the face with a helmet or a shoulder pad. Like that's barbaric, right? Shouldn't happen. But I just think the game is sometimes you're like, come on, man, like let them play. Let the kids play.
There's probably a difference between roughing the passer and touching the passer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, right before do you know what the worst beatdown in college football history was? Do you want to guess the score?
Oh gosh.
This is when I think they played a little different. This is when they probably took their helmets off and swung them at each other to tackle.
Probably, yeah.
Just give me a guess.
I mean, I'm 103 to 7.
222 to nothing. I was saying if I took the best 8-year-old team in the nation and played a varsity high school team, I don't know if they could score. The varsity high school team could score 222 points in 4 quarters.
I mean, you're cooking. Holy
that's
cow.
Over 30. That's like 30 touchdowns.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was Georgia Tech versus Cumberland, and 222 to nothing. Georgia Tech ended up winning the national championship in the next year, defeating Cal. Oh no, they won the national championship in 1917 by defeating Cal in the Rose Bowl. So Cumberland was disbanding their program, but they had to play one more game, or they were going to have to pay $3,000. Which in 1917 or 1916? No,
wait,
1915.
Wow, 1915. Man, so long ago.
It was $3,000 if they didn't play the game, so they played it, and with a bunch of fraternity brothers, they put the team on the field, 222 to nothing.
That's insane.
If the best fraternity in the nation played Alabama, I don't think Alabama could beat them that bad.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
222 to nothing. I don't think it would be that bad.
No, I don't think
so. I'm not sure if
we don't play like that anymore. That's a different breed of person.
It took 6 kicks were returned for touchdowns. 24 total touchdowns. 10 of the 28 defensive plays run by Georgia Tech. There was only 10 of the 28 offensive plays. There was only 10 plays run by Georgia Tech that did not go for touchdowns. They only ran 28 offensive plays the whole game.
That's insane.
It took 2. There was only 2 Georgia Tech drives. It took 3 plays to score.
I would have never guessed in the 200s. That's insane.
Cumberland never had a first down. Georgia Tech never had one play that went for a negative yard. 63 points were scored by Georgia Tech in both the first and second quarter.
How much did they have the stat of how much maybe the defensive side scored? Because I feel like more than your offense, your defense has to be intercepting and scoring touchdowns too. It's got to be like either that or they're just a quick
4 punt returns and 2 kickoffs return. That's pretty good.
Yeah. goodness.
24 total touchdowns by Georgia Tech that took 1 or 0 offensive plays. 24 touchdowns. Tech had 7 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, the 7. Okay.
6 kick return touchdowns and 11 touchdowns from one-play drives on offense. I mean, you can't make this up.
No, you can't.
Maybe that's why there's so many rules now. Helps.
Holy
Back
cow.
then there was no rules.
Yeah.
Just score a touchdown. So I have another question.
All right.
Sticking with the football thing.
Yeah.
And I would like to know, do you think Bill Belichick is really that good? I think it's easy right now to say he's not because, they're losing and, he's in a different part. Maybe he wins the Super Bowl next year and surprises us all. But my question is, he has 8 rings. He won 1 as a defensive coordinator with the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And then he won 7 with Tom Brady.
Yeah. That's a lot.
As a head coach, every Super Bowl has been with Tom Brady. They say he's one of the best defensive minds in the history of the game. I would say because he won he won a Super Bowl with the Giants as a defensive coordinator. I would say they might have an argument there, right? And he won 7 with Tom Brady. So even if you have the best quarterback to ever play the game, hands down, nobody can argue that.
Yeah.
Tom Brady didn't have all the names people think he had around him either. Tom Brady made those wins happen. And then when he left and goes to Tampa, a team that was not even on the radar, and then he takes them to a Super Bowl and wins it handedly. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Tom Brady can do it with or without Bill Belichick. But can Bill Belichick do it with or without Tom Brady?
I mean, look.
It's a good question. I think Bill Belichick's a great coach. I think the Patriot way is would never have worked if Tom Brady wasn't there. That's my take.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think great coaches absolutely make great players better. But they're the ones out on the field.
This is what I think. You and I both know. A lot of these teams, baseball, football, hockey, basketball, you name it. And you see it in basketball, and I think it's easier to see in basketball because there's only 5 guys on the court at a time. They call them super teams, where you get like 3 guys who come together, like Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James. They win championships, right? And those are 3 of the best players at the time in the league. And I think they all made each other better, right? Yeah. But there's other parts around them that were really good.
Oh, yeah.
But my point is this. LeBron can go back to Cleveland and do the same thing. Because when you have 5 on the floor, a LeBron James is a lot more powerful than if you have just a Tom Brady. Because defense still has to play. So Bill Belichick absolutely is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best. Because he can, you can have one of the best players and still not have the best team. But I agree in that the players play, but we have seen teams time and time again with the best players on those teams not win.
Yeah. Correct.
And so I don't think you can make an argument that Bill Belichick isn't a baller. And they're like, well, he might retire now. I'm like, listen. Once Tom left, maybe it's not that he's not good. Maybe it's, he's just done. Or maybe he's going to win the Super Bowl next year. Yeah. It's Bill Belichick. I would never bet against that guy.
What I don't like about those arguments is, as a person that's not, I prefer to live in the gray and not black and white. If someone would pose that to me, I'm like, well, it's both. Why isn't it both?
Like, he's great and Tom's great.
Why can't it be both? Why not both? The little taco girl. Why not both?
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think it's a great point. Why not both?
Why not both?
It's kind of one of those, the saying I heard the other day. I was watching a commercial came on during college football, and it says, talking about betting. And their tagline for betting on sports is only bet what you can afford to lose. Like, isn't that just a picture of America? Yeah. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And let me ask, I would like to know the percentage of people who bet that bet only what they can afford to lose.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Because
let's say you did a $100 bet, and then over the course of years you got 10,000 that you just accrued. Like, well, it was only like $100. So you lose 10 grand. You're telling me you could really afford to lose that, even though you could use it for something else? Yeah. Well, it was only $100 and it grew to 10 grand. It's just funny to me. You know what I saw the other day? Changing directions a little bit. I was sitting in the sunroom at my house, and I saw something that reminded me a little bit of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hey.
It's one of the greatest things ever, by the way. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stand the test of time. I mean, my kids are still watching them.
Yeah.
There was a squirrel in my backyard, and he stood on his hind legs, and he looked into the woods as if to scope out his paradise.
Yeah.
And I think he posed. He for those of you that are listening, not watching, he put his elbows above his head, his hands straight up, and just brought his elbows straight down, almost like he was showing me his back muscles. I told Case, I said, Case, you got to get out here. She's like, why? I was like, this is the most jacked squirrel I've ever seen. This dude's back muscles were the size of a bird. I was blown away. She's like, well, they use them for everything. I was like, not this guy.
You're climbing
guy,
all day.
He got into somebody's trash can and took a steroid or something.
Oh, yeah.
Dude was yoked.
Yeah.
I was amazed.
Protein shakes.
I was just amazed. You might think, why is this dude talking about a squirrel? Because if you'd have seen this squirrel, you'd have thought maybe turtles are real.
Listen. No, yeah, that's true. Very, very similar to your story. I stumbled across, again, this is like probably the news articles that I read. I stumbled across like biggest animals, like a post about like they showed a cow that was like the largest cow in the world and all this stuff. Well, they eventually got to a kangaroo. Now, kangaroos can mess you up, but this kangaroo was 6'7", as tall as me.
Oh my gosh!
And you want to talk about yoked? I mean, a yoked kangaroo.
Kangaroos, their
Dude,
chest muscles are legit, bro.
We'll make this a clip, and I'll have to find a picture of it. He was jacked, and he's as tall as me. Can you imagine that? A kangaroo as tall as me and yoked?
You put a kangaroo in a corner, they'll knock your head off.
I know, dude.
I mean, they don't play, bro.
Like, I'm not
I
messing
would never
with that
mess with a
kangaroo.
small kangaroo because to me it looks like kangaroos. I think they have a very strict training regimen that it's required of all kangaroos to do,
man.
and they bench press. You can't convince me kangaroos aren't out in the wild bench press. Those jokers are yoked.
Dude, I'm
Their
telling
chest
you.
muscles.
Yeah.
I bet you a kangaroo could push out 200 push-ups without thinking.
And you wouldn't think like they hop around all day. Why is their chest so big?
Because they're
Why
bench
are
pressing. They're
doing
bench pressing when you're
something.
sleeping. That's
Yeah.
why. They're bench
This
pressing,
kangaroo's
bro.
like a in captivity
You know,
kangaroo.
You know
He's
why I
just
respect
lifting all
kangaroo?
day.
You know why I respect kangaroos? Because they don't just do chest day; they do leg
Yeah,
day.
that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you're dedicated to leg day, I'm telling you, you have a good chest. But if you're just dedicated to your chest, your legs are going to look like two little white strings hanging out the bottom of your shorts.
Hey, they got to carry your arms, man. They got to carry your chest. So
Yeah, whatever, man. It is what it is. We'll represent. Hey, you asked for it. Got
why
him.
do you do this?
Got him.
I'm not even remotely
That's
close.
right. Yeah, you'll never get it again in the
I
history of
know.
this. You'll
That's
never.
probably true. Look, I got 3 programs I got control
Don't
over.
blame
Are we
me.
good? Oh,
You
just
asked
now.
for it.
Okay. Could have taken a coffee break.
I was talking over the music.
All right, 1 to 3. And I would like, for all you listeners out there, I would like to know, because you may just get a free gift from the Brandon Shank podcast. I would like to know your favorite Halloween candy, ranked 1 to 3.
That's cool.
Or 3 to 1. Let's go 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween's not for over a week and a half. I get it. But, like, you know, we're like Crackle Barrel here. We celebrate it before it gets here. You know,
But
Crackle
is
Barrel's
it-
had Halloween candy out since July. So we may talk about Christmas next week. We may get way ahead of the curve.
Can I ask you this though? Isn't
Sure.
Halloween candy just candy, or are you talking about specific candy that is only sold during the Halloween, like candy corn? Like it's only sold during Halloween.
Candy.
So just all candy. Yeah. I
Let's
mean,
just talk about
it's
candy.
a good time to talk about candy. It's
Way to
Halloween.
kill the
but-
flavor of the season.
I'm sorry.
Way to go, Corey.
So you want our top 3?
Is pumpkin pie a Thanksgiving pie or an everyday pie? I don't know if you did in July. It's Thanksgiving
everyday
pie
pie
in
for
July, I
me.
guess. I don't
I
know.
love pumpkin
Corey
pie.
candy, okay? Let's say, I mean, you know, Halloween candy, what
All right.
makes it Halloween? The fact that the wrapper is orange and black or
Yeah.
it has a little bat on it. I don't know.
I would think what makes it Halloween is it's
For
like-
everybody
it's
out
like little
there
snack
who's
size.
not tearing apart the of what I'm trying to communicate here, let's just say candy
You know
in
what
general.
I'm doing? You know what I'm secretly doing? I'm adding little discourse so to buy me some time to think.
Do you know there was a state, and I don't remember which one it was. Their favorite, I'll tell you a candy that I will eat, but I
Yeah.
absolutely hate it, and it's annoying to me. It's an annoying candy.
Okay.
M&Ms.
No, don't say that.
They're just annoying.
Why?
They're just I don't know what it is. They're an annoying candy to me. They're subpar at best. And I'm just like they're just an annoying little bag of candy.
They're just I don't know, dude. I'm not gonna throw
And
shade
the
on
reason I know
M&Ms
this is going to be an issue is because this is one of the most popular candies in half of the country, probably. M&Ms.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is M&Ms popular?
It's just
What's so great about
It's
it?
a staple.
Now-
It's not the fancy of fancy, but it's like, oh yeah, I can eat an M&M.
Yeah, I'm like M&Ms. I could give or take. If I never had an M&M the rest of my life, I could die happy. If I have one, I'll die happy still. So
Good-
it's like I don't
yeah.
care if they exist.
Good in trail mix.
Sure,
It's a good added. You know, I'm a big like.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I take back that statement. I agree with that. You
You're
put 'em-
actually like, I take it back. They're my favorite.
No, you put
Yeah.
them in that. You just, I mean,
With
it's
some
kind of like
peanuts
saying
and some
gravy's good, but you put
cashews
that
and-
gravy on some mashed potatoes. Now we're talking.
Exactly.
It's you put those with raisins,
Yeah.
or like in nuts and trail mix. They are absolutely the difference
It's
maker.
the little bit of hit
so
of
I
sweet
just want
that
to
you need.
apologize
Yeah.
to M&Ms for a sec.
You should.
I don't like them plain, but I like them in stuff.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Now, if we're talking peanut butter M&Ms,
That's all right. I like peanut butter.
that might be my third.
Okay. Well, let me say my
might be number
1.
3.
So let's just
Wait,
do
I
candy.
thought we were going 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Well, what's your 3, 2, 1?
Well, I'm going to go my 3 first,
Okay.
and you go your 3. My 3 would be peanut butter M&Ms.
Okay. Man, there's so many good ones out there. I would have to say my number 3. I'm going to go with 100 grand.
Yep, we talked about that the other day.
I could eat those all day.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Number 2, what you got?
Number 2, Milky Way.
Man, you knew that coming into it. You weren't even hesitating.
I know my number 2 and 1.
My number 2, I'm going to just go with Skittles.
Oh wow,
You don't like Skittles?
The band, not good for you.
I didn't say it. I mean, when I eat candy, whether or not it's going to make my glucose numbers jack up or give me cancer, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm eating them. When you eat candy, it's like you're smoking a pack of cigarettes.
What was it, like iron dioxide or
Apparently,
something?
when you eat Skittles,
dioxide.
it's like drinking a pack. It's like eating a pack of cigarettes and drinking a 40 laced with LSD.
Hey, you go hard.
And I don't do either of those things, but I figure if I got to choose between the three, I'll just eat the Skittles.
Why not do the candy version?
Who'd you got number one?
Number one, Fifth Avenue Bar.
What's in those?
So basically, the best way I can describe it to people is it's a high class Butterfinger. It's a Butterfinger, but way better. Like it's tastes way better. Doesn't stick to the roof of your mouth. Yeah.
Number one for me, Chewy Sprees.
Man, you're the sugar guy.
Why?
You're that guy? I don't know. Just mine were all chocolate, and yours were all like
gross as candy. Something you're just like, that's disgusting.
Oh boy. Anything root beer flavored.
Really?
Yeah. In a candy form, I love root beer, but in candy form, anything that tastes like root beer. Black licorice. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say jelly beans make me nauseous.
Yeah, that's like forms of licorice, basically.
You eat jelly beans and like they fall apart in your mouth and you got like a mouthful of just like pieces of granule junk all. I'm like, why would you want that? You're like sloshing around a bunch of random pieces of stuff in your mouth. It's nasty, bro.
Chewy
So
Sprees,
well, let me ask you this then. So we're getting ahead of the game here. So when's too early for Christmas? Is 12 o'clock a.m. on November the 1st? Is that when you started, or are you an after Thanksgiving guy? I actually think I know the answer to this. Can I answer this for you?
Sure.
You're an after Thanksgiving guy.
Me personally, yes, because I love Thanksgiving. Now, I am whenever my wife wants to decorate for it guy.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, I'm never for Christmas.
Most of the time it's after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, my wife, so we're moving, we move this weekend, and she was like, Brandon, I got all these great ideas for how I want to decorate for Christmas. I'm like, oh, dear Jesus. Yeah. I'm like, let's just take the first year off.
I want a 25-foot Christmas tree. Yeah.
Dude, I'm like, let's just take the first year off.
But a live one.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. No, bro. We ain't those people. You know what's funny? I had a friend who he was all about the earth and saving everything.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't drink water bottles. He'd only drink, he'd have to get out of the faucet, would never use water bottles, all this stuff. But then he had a real tree in his house. I'm like, so help me understand how this works. I mean, he was adamant about saving the planet, but then he cuts down a tree for Christmas and puts it in his house. I don't understand. Maybe it's just something I don't get.
Yeah. We'll never understand.
Hey, I'm a Christmas music can start in November guy.
I know you are.
Yeah. But I'm not. Yeah. But I love Thanksgiving. See, this thing, I love Thanksgiving. I love watching football at Thanksgiving with the Christmas tree in the corner.
Yeah. I'm not against that either. Yeah. It's a very.
I feel like you and I are we're very holiday healthy.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I don't mind my home kind of smelling and looking like a forest during Thanksgiving. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
right?
It kind of should be.
I feel like we have a very healthy holiday dynamic.
Hey, let's do this. I have a great idea. How about? We can put out the tree and everything. We can get the candles out and everything, but don't make it like Christmassy red and white yet. Let's just make it look like a forest, smell like a forest.
It's a hybrid.
Like a winter forest.
I love it.
And then after Thanksgiving, let's decorate it, all presents and wrapping and the ornaments and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's the way it should be.
Let's normalize that.
I think it's a great idea.
I love it. November is make your house look like a forest, a pine forest.
And smell like it.
Yes.
And then Christmas, you add a little bit of that spice along with some presents. Now you got yourself a whole new holiday.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't like that idea. I love it.
Let's do it.
I think that's what it's me. In case, I know you don't watch these, but if you do, babe, I think this is, I know you don't watch these, but if you do, listen to me. Please, just take it easy on me this year. Christmas, I mean, we don't need a tree. We just tell the boys it's Christmas.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, we bought a brand new tree last year.
Yeah.
I think we're getting another one.
Pre-lit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need to do this year.
It was a really nice tree though.
Yeah.
Like I'm a guy who like I really, when I see a nice tree, I'm like, wow, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I knew a guy back in Hagerstown where we used to live. It had to been 25 trees in his house every Christmas season. Like 25. It was literally a forest.
That
in
can't
his
be.
house.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
But he loved it.
Well, so in the news, I have something that's very disturbing. A St. Louis football coach, a youth football coach, was shot during practice by a parent.
Holy cow!
I know this podcast took a really dark turn
That
fast.
really,
I didn't even prep you
that
guys.
really Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm
and
sorry about
somebody
that. But
was shot.
but he lived.
Okay, that's
so
good.
he lived.
Okay.
But he was shot multiple times, and as he went down, the parent was still shooting him, and then saying things to him about "I told you I was coming for you" type thing.
Holy cow!
But he was shot by a parent upset over a son's playing time.
Mm.
So I just want to know, when are we going to give kids back their sports?
Yeah.
I coach youth baseball. I've built baseball programs. I'm the president of a little league.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and dads, from my heart to yours, when are we going to give kids back their sports and just let them enjoy playing the game without us a part of it?
Take a
if
deep
we
breath.
understood that our job was to stay on the sideline and cheer for our kids and not dominate and or manipulate our kids' futures,
Or shoot coaches.
you know. If I was one of those kids who sometimes thought the coach just doesn't like me. The reality was I just wasn't good enough. There were times teams I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
You know, and as an adult, you can look back and say, I'm glad. My parents
Yeah.
never ever meandered in coaching stuff. I mean, my parents, like my dad never coached me. It wasn't anything like that. They weren't really involved. They would come watch, but they were never involved. I'm super involved with my kids. And I will never show them favoritism. But for a parent to that's unbelievable to me. I mean, well, not really. I've seen the way parents act, but it's funny because I've never seen kids in all the years I've coached. I've never seen kids get thrown out. I've heard of it, but I've never seen a kid get thrown out of a game because of them saying something to an umpire or a referee. However, I have seen many parents get thrown out of games.
Yeah.
Give their kids back their sports, mom and dad. Can I just say that?
Yeah, really.
That's just where I want to sit.
That's a good one.
You know?
It's a good one.
Just give them back.
Yeah.
So have you ever stayed in an Airbnb?
Once.
What did you think?
That was the last time.
Yeah. So why?
So, well, a couple of reasons.
Because we're coming up on vacation time, right? Holidays. We're just, listen, here at the podcast, we're trying to prep you guys for the future of the next 2 months of your life. We're trying to give you a little bit of leeway here. I RV. So my family, we have an RV. We take it everywhere. One, because it's a party in a box. You stop, you set it up. You got all your food, got all your stuff. Your kids got their beds. It's just nice.
Yeah.
So that's why we like the vacation. And it's really, you pay for the RV and then it's not super expensive to do it, comparatively. So for us, we've used the Airbnbs, but that's our method of vacationing. So you had a bad experience at Airbnb, and this is not a shot at the brand. This is just talking figuratively. So tell me why.
And I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a bad experience. It was just, the house was beautiful. It was very eclectic and it had a cool vibe too. It was in Lancaster, PA. And so the first thing was one night, Lauren and I went out, and when we got back, right in front of the house, there was this really old, creepy Volvo, really old, parked in front of the house.
Was it there when you got there initially?
No, it was not there.
So is there are there more people than just you staying in that house?
No, well, I don't think so.
Wow.
And Airbnb, they have these they have these rooms that are locked that you can't go into because the owner's probably storing stuff there. But it's
actually
that's
the
a full
Airbnb that
room.
stayed in never had locked doors. That.
But here's the thing. Yeah, this one did, and it literally said
you should have got out of there. Whenever you go into an Airbnb and you can't get into half the house, leave.
But you would walk up the stairs and down at the end of the hallway was that room. The door was locked, and you could see underneath the door, and you're like, man, is there a person in there? What's in there? So that part just in your head, it kind of creeps you out.
If you stay in a house and there's not anything in the comment section about somebody else is staying there with you, you don't stay. I mean, this is when you tell me there's an old rickety car parked in a driveway that wasn't there when you arrived, and there's doors locked in the Airbnb. This one's on you, bro. This one's on you, man. Look, you gotta get up out of there.
It was our first experience, and then on top of that, so here's the thing. So
I don't know how you stayed. You stayed there.
Yeah. Well, I stayed because I was like, whatever. I'll beat somebody up if I need to. But my wife was legitimately freaked out. Now,
I bet she was.
Here's what happens.
Were you in the woods? Were you in the woods?
No, we weren't in the woods. No.
Okay.
And there were other houses around. But anyway, there was one morning that we got up and we walked downstairs, and they had one of those, again, it was a really cool house. They had one of those, it wasn't a super old refrigerator, but it looked like it was, a really vintage looking, 70s refrigerator. But it was kind of smaller, and on top of it was this 3-tray tiered thing. And so, you're in the house, you're walking by it every day. Well, one day I looked, and there was one of those little packs of medicine that had 2 pills in it, and I was like, I don't think that was there yesterday.
Oh. Bro.
So here's what I legit think happened. It was creepy when it happened. But I do think
This is your Halloween podcast.
I do think one of the days that we were just out and about, the owners had to come back and get something, I think.
If I'm renting out
happened.
an Airbnb, under no circumstance would I walk in there until the tenants were gone.
I know.
From their trip.
Oh, trust me.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem with Airbnb. Maybe people feel like, well, this is my house. I'll do what I want. It's like, well, I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the rules and the things have changed. I had a buddy last summer stay somewhere, and I'm going to be a little bit broad in how I talk about this because I don't want the people who might, if they ever stumble upon this podcast, I don't want them to be like, that's ours. They stayed in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Him and his wife. And it was a tiny cabin set back off the road a good distance. Mm-hmm. And the entire cabin was a memorial to somebody who had died.
Oh, boy. Oh,
and they had their stuff in it.
That's how a horror movie
in like
starts.
shadow boxes and stuff. Nope. Like it was a person who died in the line of duty in a public service forum. I'm not going to say which one.
Yeah.
But it had a bunch of stuff. The whole place was filled with their stuff. That person's stuff. He said, bro, I did not sleep ever. I was like,
no.
I was like, how'd you not know that before you got there? He's like, I just didn't. There was no indicator. Now, the reason I bring all this up is they're saying Airbnb it's changed a lot. I think it's suffering because when Airbnb started, the concept was, hey, you need a place to stay. Well, just stay at my place because I can give it to you for a cheap price and we can avoid all the fees in the hotels. It was a way for people to, especially like coming out of COVID, Airbnbs, or during COVID, Airbnbs became huge, right?
Yeah.
And it was a way for us to, it started out as a very relational type of business and then it turned commercial. Now you see all the hotels are on Airbnbs and all these, like Airbnb is being taken over by, it's been commercialized because of money. Yeah. So the whole concept it started out as is now obliterated because Airbnb is nothing but a site where people can rent their personal properties. Whereas before it was a place that was under the radar. Hey, you need a place to stay? Come stay here. And this is awesome. I can stay somewhere for $100 a night that any hotel is $220.
Yeah.
Right. We stayed somewhere one year in Florida and had an indoor pool and everything. You know, like everything in Florida is fenced in. Yeah. And it was great. My boys loved it. Really good environment down near Orlando. The Airbnb itself wasn't that clean, and it wasn't that nice. But my boys loved it because at the pool. And so looking back, it was fine.
But I would imagine something like that in Florida is something akin to renting a house at the Outer Banks.
Sure.
Like
it was basically like a house rental.
Our Airbnb experience was this is your home.
And we're staying there.
Like not your vacation home. This is your home that we're coming into.
And you're staying over at cousin's house.
And you're somewhere else to make extra money while we stay in your house for a couple days.
To me.
Yeah, that's where I was like, I've never been
crazy because right after Airbnb started, there was like all these articles that came out about people being watched on cameras and everything else.
Legit horror stories of Airbnb.
I'm like, nah, your boy ain't interested. Like I'm not down for that at all. That's why we got an RV. We RV'd before and then we sold our RV during COVID. Yeah. Really cool story actually. A little promo for them. There's an organization called RVs for M&Ms. I don't know if it's still running, but we had our RV. We only had it for a couple months, and we had a fifth wheel. And there was a nurse in Norfolk that needed a place to stay. She had 6 kids, and she was working on the COVID floor. So we let them use our RV for, I don't know, it was like May through August, 4 months. She ended up getting COVID anyway, bless her heart. But they ended up using our RV for 4 months, and then RVs for M&Ms during COVID. And then we got the RV back. We sold it a couple months later before we bought our house where we're at now. And so last year we bought a new RV and we love it. Like I love RVing. I love what it is. You're out in the wild. The RV market's crashed just like a lot of other things. But yeah, I think that and the hotel market is unbelievable. The pricing right now is unbelievable how much you pay. Like I got 4 kids. Yeah. So for us to go away for a 3-day weekend, let's say we go Friday night, Saturday night, and we come back Sunday, 2 nights. And I mean, you're looking at $700, $800 if you stay in hotels and food and everything, you know, with 4 kids. So RV makes it applicable.
You know for sure.
Makes it able to do it. So I have a little longer segment here for our final thought, but let's hit that final thought anyway.
Here's my final thought.
All right. So I want to ask you as the listener, you're sitting here, you're saying the only reason you listen to this podcast is because we add value to your life. That's the only reason people listen to podcasts. We make you laugh, we make you cry, we make you think. Yeah. So when I was doing research and coming into starting this podcast, we had talked about doing this podcast for what, 10 years?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's been a while.
I mean, we Corey and I have some recordings that we made back in the day, some musical recordings.
That are, hey, you know, I just found them the other day.
Those are platinum. Yeah. Honestly, we just haven't released them to the public.
Them, yeah.
No, we don't want to do that. But we've been talking about doing something like this for a long time, whether it's music or this. We talked about stuff. So the goal is when you do a podcast like this, they say the people will listen if you add value to their life. And so I'm assuming you're listening right now. Some of you, this might be your first time listening. So welcome to the podcast. Good to see y'all. Love you. Thank you for being here. Hope this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. I believe it will be. For those of you who listen, some of you have not missed one. I had somebody this past week tell me they were driving back from Texas. They listened to 23 straight episodes.
Oh, yeah. I talked to them too,
Yeah, I was like, that's awesome. But that's cool, that, they caught up on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the only reason you listen to a podcast is, one, some of y'all are working right now and you're just doing something and we're in the background. And some people actually told me that they won't listen to me at work anymore because they don't get anything done. So, hey, I'm glad we can be engaging. So, man, I can't listen to you at work. We don't do nothing. We start listening and we didn't find ourselves just sitting there listening to the podcast. So, glad we could be engaging. But the reason that we started the podcast is we want to add value to your life.
Yeah.
The goal is, hey, Sundays, I love preaching the gospel. That's my doctorate is in exegetical preaching and teaching. I am passionate about taking the word of God and creating bite-sized portions so people can chew on it and get refreshed by it and their life changes and they grow in Jesus. Like, that is why I exist, right? Mm-hmm. So we started the podcast, and I also have the blog that we post right now. It's about once a month. We may increase that, but it's where we're at right now with it. But the purpose of this podcast, I said, I want to bring Jesus, culture, and sports to people and just talk about life and what it looks like to live as a Christian, a man or woman of God, somebody who knows God, loves God, but life is still life. And how do we walk through that? You can teach scripture, and those things got to be chewed on, but how do we make it applicable? And really what we see the podcast is there's a lot of people who go to our church that listen, a lot of people that don't go to our church that listen. And honestly, this isn't just for church folk. This is just for people who I know or stumble upon this podcast. Like, man, the other day somebody was invited to our church, and their response was, "Oh, is your pastor the one with the podcast?" So this is it's honestly one of those things where I want to add value to people's lives. And so I hope that this is something that every week brings encouragement to you. It's something that makes you laugh and makes you cry and makes you think and makes you know you're loved by God. But I have a question for all the listeners out there. Just for this moment, I want to ask you this, and I want you to really think introspectively, but when is enough enough? Because this is a question that I've had to ask and answer in my own life. And I really want to know from you, when is enough in your life? When are you saying, you know what? I'm just done living like this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the financial strain on my life. I'm making changes. I'm tired of the overwhelming schedule that never relents. I'm just making changes. And the reason I ask is because the last 2 years for my wife and I, in 2021, at the end of COVID, we moved into a brand new home, and we had to do a ton of work to it. We had a ton of our friends helping us. It was painting. We had new floors put down. We had custom backsplash put in. In the 2-year process we were there, we did a lot of stuff to that house, right? And so it was busy. And it wasn't even intentional like that. It was like when you move in somewhere, it's just easier to do it on the front end. So it was busy. The church, we moved into a new venue, and then we moved out of that venue last year and moved into another new venue because we outgrew the old venue that we were in. My wife and I are both in school. I just finished mine. She finishes hers. She's been in school for 4 years getting her master's. We both are on staff here at Palms. She's in a small part-time role doing discipleship and some things like that. And obviously, we started this church 9 years ago. I say all that to say, we started a baseball program. I coach my kids. Last year, I coached two of my kids. This year, I coached just one of them. 3 of them are in baseball, about to be 4 this spring. It's just like you. I'm trying to give you examples of people say, "Oh, you're just so busy." And I always tell them, I'm not busier than you. My life's just different than yours.
Yeah.
So I ask you this, when is enough? Because I had to make this decision of, you know what, I'm just not doing this. And so this fall, I had opportunities. Do I want to do baseball lessons? Do I want to start teaching at a college? I had multiple colleges I was talking to. Do I want to start writing something? Do I want to do another job and be bivocational? I was just thinking of everything. Like, now that I'm done my doctorate, what do I do? What do I go do? And the Lord spoke to me in October. Actually, what is this, October?
Yep.
He spoke to we've been in this house thing since the end of July.
Yeah.
He spoke to me in September, maybe beginning of October, and he said, like the rest of this year, he said, don't start anything new. It was that clear. Don't start anything new. Rest. And I had a hunger for the church more than ever. I just wanted to get back into Palms. I wanted to get back into the day-to-day because I haven't been able to be as much of a part because of my schooling and different things. And I wanted to get back. And I feel like God's saying, hey, don't start anything new. Just rest. Get your family transitioned to this new place and rest. And so I only coach my oldest son, Caden, in baseball right now. We're still practice 2 days a week. We had a practice last night. We have a game tomorrow, practice Friday, doubleheader Sunday. We still have stuff, right? But I say that because for me and my wife, Casey said, Brandon, the value that you add is when you stay in something a long time, not when you keep building new things.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think it was just something I needed to hear because I'm always building. I'm a starter. But when do you live the life you want and not the life you're forced to live? And I'm encouraging you guys with this today because I think a lot of you are doing jobs that you just hate them. You hate the job. And sure, there's going to be a scary time of where you're not sure where the finances are, but if you really hate it and you know God's not asking you to do it, there have been things in my life that God's told me to do. And he said this in response, you do it, I'm going to bless you. You stay and I'm going to bless you. Now let me explain this because God said obedience is greater than sacrifice. Let me explain this really quick. God isn't a bully to where you don't do what he wants, he destroys you. But I do know God could say, hey, you stay at your job, I'll bless you. But you go to this job, yeah, you might make 30 grand more a year. And in 3 years, you don't even know you're going to have a promotion and oversee a whole division. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying that's the way God works, saying, I will bless you. Now, if he says, hey, you need to move here to do this, and it's an obedience thing, it's different. But that is not a countercultural, that's a countercultural concept, but it is not a counter-God norm for him to bless you in two different decisions you make, but one decision will take you somewhere, the other one won't. Is that fair?
It's good, yeah.
So when do we stop running the race and enjoy the journey? And this is the question that I really feel like God's been asking me. When do you just stop? Because I know that right now, people financially are scared. They feel like they can't afford stuff. Everything's more expensive than it used to be, but nobody's making more money than they used to make. In fact, it seems like you might make more, but everything is absorbed. So for us, when do we realize we're never going to get there? I've talked to guys who are ridiculously wealthy. Unless it's inherited wealth, the amount of work that they've put in and the amount of sacrifice they've made for that wealth is probably, if I'm being honest, sacrifice I would never make.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't care to make that kind of sacrifice. And I think for me, it's just because I care too much about time with my family. Like the reality is you can make a ton and be really successful and have time with your family. Absolutely. But some of the sacrifices people have made, I know for me personally, I'm just not willing to make. One of the greatest evangelists of all time of the 21st century, Billy Graham, right? And if you haven't heard of him, look him up. Billy Graham, he was even a diplomat to countries. Like he was somebody who would go over and to these countries as a representative of the United States of America. He was close to presidents. He would do crusades where millions of people would show up and people come to know Christ. He was a huge part of a lot. If you ever get a chance, Billy Graham Museum or the Billy Graham Library, excuse me, I don't call it a museum, in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's something. It's amazing. You just need to go. Billy Graham is buried in the garden with the people who were beside him all those years. The guy who did music, the guy who was like his right-hand admin, all these guys, or organizer, tour manager, they're all buried together with Billy Graham's wife there as well in this garden. And like they just did ministry together. It's a beautiful thing. I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Billy Graham, but he would go for 6 months to overseas at a time. Yeah. 6 months.
Jeez.
The impact he made was unbelievable. But when he said the one thing he regrets the most was the amount that he was gone. And I'm thinking, you're that age in your life, and the impact he made is immeasurable. I mean, he was in the rotunda, or whatever they call it, in the Capitol when he died. His body was there as a way to honor him, for a day or whatever. Yeah. You know how they do that for presidents or whatever it is. Well, he was there. They took him there for a day. And he said, I just wish that I would have been home more. And I think for all of us, I just want to encourage you. Don't be overwhelmed thinking you're not being a good parent. You're a lot better. You're doing a lot better than you give yourself credit for. Don't overwhelm thinking, well, you've lost somebody dear to you and you wish you could have said goodbye one more time. You needed to say goodbye for you, but they didn't need to say goodbye because they knew you loved them, right? A lot of it's for us.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I think you're doing a lot better on the race than you think, but enjoy the journey and don't get caught up in the rat race. Like, do what's best for you and your family. Enjoy it. I always tell people, man, be faithful with your giving. Be faithful to your local church. Lock in. Be in a place where God can bless you, and not in a place where you're not given the opportunity. Like God's always blessing us. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, God's speaking to you. You know, like there's a purpose in all this. God is blessed. God is everybody's life who has breath in their lungs has a reason to be grateful to God. anybody who's ever had an existence has a reason to be grateful to God.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I pray today for God's peace, courage, and strength over people. I feel the weight of people. I'm empathizing. I know that people are scared. I know that the world is tough. I know that there's a war overseas that, they're talking about Gaza and the Gaza Strip. And we know, even as we're doing studies through Exodus in our church right now, that was a point of contention when Joseph was alive and when Moses was alive. It's the same point of contention. And it's funny how a country that's smaller than the size of New Jersey takes over all of our media when it's at war in Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Because that has been the place from the beginning. Are Israelites God's people? We are God's people. That's people say, well, the Jews are God's people. We're all God's people.
Yeah.
When Jesus died, he was trying to say that. Jew or it doesn't matter. So people are like, oh, these are God's people. We got to be this or that. It's like, we are God's people.
Yeah.
We are the chosen people. It's not just the Jews,
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say is like the people who believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God is God's people. And so I pray for God's peace, strength, and courage over people. Matthew 6:34, I love it, says, don't worry about today because you don't know what anxieties tomorrow may bring. So don't let today overwhelm you because you win today and then you're like, well, what about tomorrow? Or what about the next day? So I just want to pray for people. I want to believe with you, man, that God's got you. Live with joy. And you can't do that without God. You can't have legit joy without God. Live with joy. Let it be that thing that overwhelms you and the thing that overflows out of your life. But hey, make the change because enough's enough.
Enough's enough.
Enough is enough.
I like it.
Let's go. Lord, I pray for each and every listener. I thank you for them. Thank you for today. I pray that they would sense your presence, that you have chosen them, that you love them. Your hand is on them to guide, direct them, and doing them what only you can. We love you, God, and we're grateful for you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, see you this Sunday, 9:30, online, in person. We love y'all. We'll see you soon.